back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast / YouTube / We Do It All. As always, I'm your host, John. Very happy to be here. My boy Jay is over there in the six. How you doing, my dog?
Doing great, Jay. Doing great. Back at it. I mean, we're 9 days, 8 days away from the NBA season, so it can't be any better. Also, we rocking our merch today, man. We rocking our Clutch Talk merch, man. So if y'all didn't know, I guess it's the first announcement we're going to be making about this, but we do have our merch available. If you click our link tree, we have all of our merch there on that. We have hoodies, shirts. We believe we have some shorts coming in. So whatever you need right now, and we're going to be adding more to the store, grab some merch, grab some Clutch Talk merch, support us, and we're going to keep coming with the content, man. So just thought I'd make that little announcement, bro.
Yes, sir, Jay. Yes, sir. That's a beautiful announcement, a beautiful way to start the pod, Jay. For all the family out there, make sure you guys go check that out. If you're on YouTube, you see Jay rocking that Warriors blue. I'm rocking that Lakers purple. Y'all know how we coming,
Nice.
Man. So, and there's tons of other colors too, man. So go out there, definitely check that out. But for now, Jay, what we got this episode, Jay. We got the top 5 MVP predictions for this upcoming year. You ready to get into these, Jay? I was excited to do this episode with you, my brother.
Absolutely. There's some. I'm excited to hear your list because I know my list is. I'm happy with it because these guys are coming for that MVP this year.
Hey, man. So let's go ahead and get into it. No further delay. But if you're out there, if you're on YouTube, make sure you smash that subscribe button before we get into this. We are on the road to 200 before 2023, man. So make sure you guys show some love right now. But anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and jump into this. Jay, you want to do this 5-1?
Yeah, I sort of have. Yeah, I have an order. So you want to? Yeah, let's do 5-1.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and kick off my 5th, Jay. Honestly, I know this is going to sound crazy right when I say it, but that's what I'm saying. You got to listen to the reasons. So at the 5th spot, I think Jokic, right? And the only reason why I say he'd be that far down, I know he's a back-to-back MVP, is because we all know about voters fatigue, man. The last 2 years, he's gotten it. And I think honestly, last year he really only won it. I've been stated on the record saying multiple times, like I think Embiid should have won it, but Jokic won it because MPJ and Jamal Murray were out, and people thought the Nuggets should have been sitting at the bottom of the West. Instead, Jokic had them floating around that middle of the pack, which is extremely impressive. But still, I think that for this third year, in no way it happened, especially with MPJ back, Jamal Murray back, and this voter fatigue. So that's why I went with Jokic at that 5th spot. Who you got, my brother?
Wow. I will say right away that I do have Jokic on my list, but not that low. But I like the reasons you came with for why he could potentially be that low, and because voter fatigue is a real thing. But he's fully deserving if he has the same type of year. Because on the floor, right, setting up his teammates, the way he can score, his ability to stat stuff, almost every category with efficiency is crazy. So I have him on there, but he's not my 5th guy. For my 5th guy, Jay, I have who I believe is going to be the leader and then take that front seat, the driver's seat this year for a team who had the best record in the NBA last year. And that's Devin Booker. Might be a shocker here. I have him at number 5 because I just believe this is his year, right? What was the huge issue for the Phoenix Suns last year? They were relying on a 38-year-old Chris Paul in the playoffs in a game 7. And I feel a lot of that, what's the word I'm looking for here? A lot of that responsibility should have fallen on D Book because, Chris Paul got all the flack, right, for not being the performance, not putting in the performances and not playing to the level he was expected to throughout the first round, what we saw from him in the first round, and then the second round when they got bounced by Dallas. I think that responsibility should have fallen on D Book to be that number 1 option, to take that scoring load, to take that primary playmaking role. And I think this year, if Phoenix, we've seen all of their kind of front office issues with Robert Sarver, all of that, DeAndre Ayton seeming to be, Jay Crowder, all of his issues. But I think they need someone to step up in a big way. And I believe D-Book will have a huge part to do with that. If Phoenix is going to be, contending again this year in the Western Conference, D-Book's got to step up and be that guy. So I have him at 5, starting off the MVP candidates for next year.
I like that, Jay. D-Book, and man, and I think that'll be big just for, I feel like his career in general. I mean, of course, the MVP be big for anybody, but I feel like the player that Devin Booker is, he's like you either think he's a good player, or there's people out there like our guy Garrett who just absolutely hates him and just doesn't even think he's like a first NBA, like a first All NBA team type player, right? But I'm right there with you though, Jay. I mean, if you look at his numbers, Devin Booker the last 4 years, he's averaged 26.6 points per game, like actually on the dot, like on Basketball Reference, which is pretty insane. So I definitely do want to see him take that jump. But I feel like something that you talked about a lot last year, Jay, was the Phoenix Suns not being just a regular season champions, right? But being able to prove a little bit more, and I think that that'll be big for him too, as far as getting that, if he were to get that MVP. But I can see, I thought about putting Booker. I'm not gonna lie, I thought about for that 5th spot. I thought between Booker, Tatum, and Jokic, and the only reason I'm going Jokic is more of that voter fatigue, man. But I like Book, Jay. I like Book. I like that.
You don't have him on your list, Jay.
No, I don't have him on my list.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I don't have him on my list. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 4th, and that's and it's right away. It might be a little high even, but James Harden, Philadelphia 76ers. A lot of the talk has been Joel Embiid, but I truly believe that, how I value guard play, how I think this is a guards league. They're running the show, they're dictating the offense, they're controlling the pace of the game. James Harden is a point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. We've seen all the work that he's put in the offseason. We've heard about the potential, 20 pounds or so that he's apparently lost. All of this, the additions the Philadelphia 76ers made, them getting bounced in the 2nd round last year, they're disappointed. They should have been, in the finals, they believe, or at least in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they didn't get there. When they brought in James Harden, that was the original plan, right? It was finals or bust. So if you're that guy that they say you are, you've made all these steps, he's apparently in shape, Jay. I think that this is the season for James Harden to right all those doubters wrong that's saying his career is on a downhill trajectory. If Philadelphia 76ers are going to be successful, it's going to be a large part to do with James Harden. And I think he's going to be back. He's going to be back to that guy that we saw for so many years shining in Houston. To me, I feel that Philadelphia is going to have a good regular season record. So I got James Harden. He showed towards the end of the season too that, and he showed flashes, I'd say, in the end of the season, like in the Miami series. So if we see that consistently now that he's in shape, I just think it's going to be a huge reason to why Philly's successful. And I just have him as a prime, 4-spot MVP candidate for next year, Jay.
Man, Jay, James, I'm a big believer. I'm right there with you. I'm a big believer of James Harden. He really, like, I'm really do believe in him getting in shape. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, nah, like, he's done. It's the old James is gone, and it might be a new version of that old James, but I think that he really is getting in shape, and I really do believe him. You could see it from just pictures, right? You could just simply see the pictures when he came into the season last season versus the way he looks now. Just looks a lot more toned, and more than anything, I mean, as basketball players, we all know, like, there's just always like that one guy who just has that on-off switch. Like, when he wants to try, he'd kill everyone. But when he wants to just not try, just simply just not try, man. So I'm a big believer that, James Harden is right there. I don't have him on my list though, Jay. So let me go ahead and run off my 4th. And honestly, I'll be real, Jay. Like, the more, so I made this list 2 days ago. And the more we talking through this, I'm starting to walk this choice back a little bit, but not too much. But at my 4th spot, Jay, I got none other than LeBron James, Jay.
Okay.
And listen, no, listen. This is not because I'm a LeBron lover. It's not because I'm a Lakers fan. I genuinely expect a big season from the Lakers this season. And I think that LeBron being the leader of that team, being the glue of that team, I think that if the Lakers do have that good season that I'm expecting, and LeBron plays well at the age of 37, 38, and him being LeBron James, there's no way the NBA doesn't just give that to him, right? Like saying like, oh, the narrative is going to start to come out. Oh, at the LeBron at the age of 37, 38, led his team to the playoffs, or wherever they end up finishing, right? I think that that'll be the narrative that just gets thrown out there, by the ESPNs and then the TV coverages and all that. And I think that that will run with a lot of people. Also, that just being LeBron James. But although this is what the caveat I want to give to it, because as you guys are talking, Devin Booker, I feel like he's younger. I feel like he's in a bit of a better situation. Might be more of an ideal argument than LeBron. I don't. Maybe Devin Booker just slipped my mind when I was doing this list. Jason Tatum could maybe been another ideal one to put there. But what I'm saying, if we talk about LeBron being him, the Lakers have a good season. Yeah, age 37, 38, because he turns 38 in December. I think there's no way that the NBA doesn't give it to him and try to run with that narrative. But Jay, talk to me. Am I tripping, Jay, or what's the deal?
I mean, I don't see that I don't have a huge issue with having Bron there, simply for the fact that, like you said, I mean, they obviously were a disappointment last season. I do believe they're going to be better. I mean, they've been playing well, their first unit, right? I do have a, people devalue preseason, right? But you can see the shell, you can see teams trying to play a different way. It's a recipe. It's the roots of a tree, right? It's the roots of, the dynamics that we'll see from a team in the regular season. And I have liking the pace, the pizzazz, and the new Lakers, up and down, fast-paced Lakers that we've seen in the preseason from their first unit. So then Darvin Ham, the emphasis on defense. The only issue I see for them is the 3-point shooting, and then shooting will be the only issue. But if they're going to be successful, you've heard me say it before, LeBron's going to have a huge part of it. But I could also see a case where if we see Anthony Davis being an MVP type of candidate, but I really have no issue with Bron there. I just don't have him on my list personally, but he's definitely like a top 10, maybe even top 7 candidate on my list. Definitely honorable mention, right? But yeah, I like that. I like it.
Lead us off with 3.
Let's hear 3. I mean, 3, you alluded to this, dude, but there's so many guys who I think could have been in my top 5, but this guy, I just need to see something from him. And that's Jason Tatum. His team he led his team in a sense to the finals. But he just crapped the bed when it came down to it. When his team needed him most to step up, we saw him just collapse, right? Under the pressure, the bright lights of the finals. I don't know what it was, but he just wasn't engaged. And he just wasn't able to step up when they needed him most. And this is, if you could write a story of an MVP season just from the offseason to losing the head coach, Ime Udoka, early on before the season starts, having Joe Mazzulla take over is, the perfect script, the perfect beginning to the story for Jason Tatum, right? And Boston, they need him to take over the leadership role. They need him to take over the DNA of Ime Udoka, who forced those guys to, play tough on the defensive end. Because when we look at Jason Tatum, he's arguably one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, right? Arguably best defender, two-way players in the game. And we saw that first front and center when he was guarding, took Kevin Durant almost out of that series, made his life so difficult, right? When he played the Nets. But the struggle for him, Jay, and I've said this from the beginning of his career, has always been It's consistency. And that's the one word that we can always look for Jason Tatum. When he's at his best, there's really no one else in the game. If you look at his statistically, what he was doing with his assists, his playmaking, the 7 assists. There was a statistic when he had 7 assists or more, the Celtics had such an exceptional record. I believe it was almost perfect, close to 80% winning percentage or so. And when he was making plays both on the defensive end and offensively, who he reminded me, and it's so funny you said LeBron, that was almost a comparison too. He has all the physical attributes. He has the athleticism. He's a better shooter than LeBron, but when he's playmaking right now, Jay, and his ability to score at 3 levels, I just think that he can be one of the best in the game. So that's why I'm saying if Boston has the same success this year with his physical attribute, his tools, both defensively and offensively, he's got to be a top 5 MVP candidate in my book. Wow, what are you feeling about that, Jay?
Wow, Jay. Honestly, I'm gonna be real with you, Jay. Look, I'm a big believer in just being open and honest and transparent. Look, man, I should have even had LeBron on this list. I shouldn't have even had LeBron, man. I think Tatum could have definitely fit into that 4th slot, because I'll be real with you, man. The NBA loves narratives, right? Like I was talking about the narratives with LeBron, right? The 37-38, leading the Lakers or whatever. If Jason Tatum takes off with this narrative of losing in the finals, losing your head coach, choking in the finals, and then coming back and having a killer season, oh man, especially because he embraces the whole Kobe spirit, the whole Kobe, mama mentality, and we know Kobe for airballing that first game winner when he was young, and then allowed that really to drive him and take him to that next level. So man, I like that. I'm right there with you, Jay. I think Jason Tatum, really, honestly, the last couple of years been averaging 24 plus for the last 3 years. So I'm expecting big numbers from him this year. I do want to see, and I'm not going to say it's a caveat, but I want to see how much Ime Udoka not being there is going to really affect him, right? Like we often talk about, is it the players that are out there, making the difference, or is it the coach? Right? I know that it's both, but who is it more at the end of the day? I feel like this year is going to be a big test to see, who it is. But I like that, Jay. Jason Tatum at the 3 spot. So let me run off my 3 spot, Jay. At my 3rd spot, we got a guy who, man, I mean, we know he's been doing the last couple of years. The last 5 years, he's been averaging 26 points plus and 12 rebounds. And that's Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jay. Man, that man, we know what he can do. It's starting to get to the point where we know what Giannis is going to bring every single night. He's starting to become more like a KD, like a Curry, like a Bron. Those players where there's not much you can do besides just kind of pray for it. And I mean, a lot of people has been stated on the record saying that they believe that the Bucks would have went back to back last year if it wasn't for Chris Middleton's injury. So I'm sure that this next year is going to be a big year for the Bucks, and not only the Bucks. I mean, Giannis is the leader of that team. I think he's got to step up and make this a real statement year, man. And come out and say, look, we had a little injury, a little mislap, but we right back. And I think that Giannis comes with that 27 and 12, 27 and 9, that consistent double and that threat. I don't know how he wouldn't get it. The only way is my number 1 and number 2. I think that's the only way he wouldn't get it.
Wow.
That's the only way he wouldn't get it, Jay.
Wow. You have him. That's my number 2, Jay. You have him 1 spot higher than me. This is going to be a huge year for Giannis, right? This is a team who believes they should have been in the finals, ultimately, or to them, they probably believe, we have a healthy Chris Middleton. We're beating the Celtics. We're beating the Heat. And then we're beating the Warriors, right? So to them, they feel like they were a player away from being the NBA champions. And what Giannis, his track record, he's a proven dude who's one of the best, if not the best competitor in the NBA. So we know he's coming through that throne. He's a great teammate. he gets those guys, he motivates them. He's blossomed into a leader of that club, of that franchise, right? So this is going to be a huge year for Giannis. We've seen him take the steps on the perimeter. And when he's at his best, he's playmaking, right? He's getting it done. He's not settling for that mid-range shot that we often see him too, but he's become a proficient shooter as well. So this is a motivated Giannis is going to be scary for the league. We don't no statistics needed for that, right? We know they're coming out motivated to come back for that title in the East, and they, to them and him, they believe they're the best team in the NBA. So this is going to be a huge season for Giannis, and I have him at my 2 spot. And I will say this too, Jay. I'm a late cross off for my list. I won't Jokic, for the same reason we talked about voter fatigue and everything, and the addition of Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. to that lineup. I don't see him he's not an MVP candidate for this reason. And it's so crazy because if it were up to voters, and it's crazy how a journalist or a media member has any say in who the best or the most valuable player in the NBA should be. But I don't believe from those we've seen in the past and those criteria for the most valuable player award, I just don't see Jokic getting in a 3rd time in a row. So that's why I'm going to leave him off my list. But we'll get into our 1 spot, and I almost think we might have the same one, but I want to hear you too, Jay.
I think we got the same one too, brother. But let me run off my 2, and that is Jokic's counterpart, Joel Embiid. You know how much I'm heavy on him, man. I mean, so much of his game already before James Harden comes out of the pick and roll, and now, like how you mentioned, though, he's getting James Harden, which arguably is like left in the league, is one of the best like pick and roll ball handlers. It's still in the league. And like I mentioned at the top of the pod, I do believe James Harden is back in shape. I do believe he has that on or off switch. And I think that when he's in a situation like Houston, he just simply switches it off because he just doesn't care. But now he's in a situation where, I mean, I think this Philly team arguably has a championship roster. We got to see him put it on paper. But I mean, they arguably have a championship roster. They have dogs in, PJ, Matisse Thybulle, Montrezl Harrell. They have shooters, Korkmaz, Tobias Harris. They have, the guard play, your guy Maxey, Niang, D'Anthony Melton. I think, with all that the Sixers have, I think that's also the best team that's ever been built around Joel Embiid. Like, this team is built around Joel Embiid and for Joel Embiid to win. I've been stated multiple times on record saying that I never thought Ben Simmons and Joel never would have worked ever, because you just pick and roll, double Joel Embiid, the play's over. And then also, man, I mean, to Philly, I'm not even going to say Philly. I'm going to say Joel Embiid. He personally has just built that scar tissue. Jay, you talk about that all the time, the importance of building up that scar tissue. I feel like Joel Embiid's career so far, and not to be disrespectful, has been a disappointment in a way. Like, I'm not saying he is a person disappointment, but every year we want to see Philly do more, and they don't. Every year we want to see Joel Embiid do more, and he can't because he's injured. So I think that, this year is going to be a big statement year for him, having James Harden there with him, set him up for easy pick and roll lobs or, the bounce pass. I think this is really going to be his year, and more than anything, Jay, I think he got robbed. Jay, he got robbed the last 2 years. Yeah. I said that when we were talking about Jokic, I think he got robbed. So I think that a killer season like this and the MVP, would help him, would help put all the bench stuff behind him. And they say that the ages 27 to 29 is like prime NBA years. You've understood the game, you're still in great shape. Joel Embiid's 28, Jay. That's right in the middle. So I don't know. I think this might be Joel Embiid's MVP season.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I believe that my value of premium and Joel's very honorable mention for me, but I just see James taking that role and that leadership. A former MVP getting another one potentially ahead of Joel, but for all the reasons you said, Jay, it could be Joel because ultimately he is the face of the franchise. they built the team around Joel Embiid, not James Harden, right? He's a part of that piece. He's a part of the puzzle to make his life easier, right? So we'll see. I just believe this year it's going to be a guard who wins the MVP. and that might be foreshadowing who it is, and that's the Don, Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks. Jay, I'm almost positive, almost 100% sure that's who you got at year one, and the story's there, right? The story is written for Luka Doncic to win the MVP this year, right? This is a team who had no business being in the Western Conference Finals last year, and you could almost say they got worse. Not worse. I mean, they lost. I think Jalen Brunson was a huge loss for them. But what better script for him? Similar to a guy like Jason Tatum, saying that having Jalen Brunson there was a huge reason why he was able to do what he could do last season. But for Luka, I think he makes his teammates around him better, right? And, this is his fourth year, I believe fourth or fifth season in the NBA, right? And we've seen him each year get better and better, Jay. The next step I want to see him is get better at the free throw line, maybe improve his efficiency, but he's still as efficient as they get, right? Last season, he was shooting at a guard position, 45% on 8 3-point attempts per game and 35% from the 3, Jay. And I think the players that they put around him, his efficiency might go up a little bit, Jay, but where he's at his best is making like I said, the players around him better. And that's what you look for, similar to a guy like Jokic. That's what you look for in a most valuable player. Who is the most valuable player to a team? And Luka has all those characteristics of being that. And if Dallas is in the conversation of being, a top 6, top 5 seed in the West, he has every case to be the most valuable player in the league, Jay.
Yeah, Jay, I'm right there with you, my brother. The Don, this year right here, Jay, is about to enter like Hall of Fame beast mode. Like Luka is about to just really show that he's him. I think that you alluded to losing the Western Conference Finals. Like, I think that's real scar tissue right there. The last 3 seasons, he's averaged 28, 8, and 9. And then also, this year with the team that he's got, I think Christian Wood, I've been stating on the record saying like that was the perfect pick and roll partner for Luka. We know how much he loves that. You add JaVale, which I know JaVale's not in his prime, but JaVale's 7 foot with a huge wingspan. Just throw it up to him sometimes. As Warriors fans, as Lakers fans, we know JaVale finishes those plays often. And then also, I think just a full year of Spencer with him in the backcourt is going to be big. But another thing that I alluded to is multiple sources talked about last year how Luka came into the season out of shape and it wasn't prepared, and it showed. Like if you look at pictures of Luka last year, and you look at pictures of Luka this year, he's like, I'm seeing like all these pictures of him in his home country, all these fans, right? Like you can just see him like he's in better shape. You could physically see it, and I just think that with this team built around him, this might be his highest scoring year and his highest career scoring year, to be honest. And I think maybe also assists as well, because that option with Wood and JaVale, I think it's gonna be big, Jay. This is definitely the Don's year. He's gonna take over, but let's see how far the Mavs can make it though, because I still, Luka's MVP. I still would not put the Mavs coming out of the West, and not even in top 4, to be honest. So we need to see if the Mavs can pull it together, because we know what Luka gonna do.
Yeah, no, it's a big year for Luka, right? We want to see him take that next step to see what he can truly be, a solidified top 5 player in the NBA. And I think he's on the border, he's on the cusp, right, of being there for me personally. So for him to take that step, the next step to round off his game, being a medium, a plus minus, a 0 defender, not a minus, not a plus, because we don't know if he'll ever get there just from his limitations athletically. but where he can make up for his limitations athletically is his IQ and his understanding of the game and putting him in better positions. Similar, and I always make its comparison to a guy like Steph. Teams pick on him defensively or offensively, mainly because they want to get his legs, take his legs out from him, not from the fact that he's a poor defender, because he's proven that he is a capable defender. He's not a plus defender. He's not a minus defender. He's just good enough and surrounded by the right guys. I think Luka could be the same, right? And his team will be better because of that, because we already know what he can do on the offensive end. So sky's the limit for the dude. This is going to be a huge year for them. And if they're even relevant in the playoff picture, it's going to be because of Luka, right? So that in itself is an MVP caliber season, similar to a guy like Jokic, right?
Thanks, Jay. And I love how you bring up that comparison of him and Curry. And I feel like he really should look to Curry, because earlier in his Curry's career, he would be targeted a lot more. But I feel like, real hoopers know, like, Curry defense is really not that bad no more. Like what it used to be, like it's really not that bad. Yeah. And I feel like all it is, people have told him, like, yo, you just need to play defense for about like 3 to 4 seconds, then the help will get there. That's all Luka needs to look to, Jay. But once you said that, it kind of made me think of a question. So I guess we'll end it off on this. But Jay, like, do you think if Luka has continues to have poor defense, and a player like Joel or a player like Giannis has MVP and Defensive Player of the Year type like season, do you think that would you give it to a Joel or a Giannis that's doing it on both ends, or would you give it to a Luka who's killing on the offensive end, but we know he's not doing much on defense?
If he's a minus defender, and I will say, like, if he's such a liability to his team where it's a glaring deficiency, then I would have to give it to a guy like Giannis or Joel. But if it's not glaring deficiency, you still give it to a team or a player like Luka, because I'll go back to the fact that, similar to the case of Jokic, who was missing without Jamal Murray, without MPJ, I look at it. Joel Embiid has James Harden on his team. He has more help. Giannis has Chris Middleton. He has Drew Holiday. And I don't see anyone really close to a second caliber, a second option. Christian Wood's not that guy. Tim Hardaway Jr. is not that guy. JaVale McGee's not that guy, right? Spencer Dinwiddie's not Drew Holiday. He's not James Harden. So that's what I look at, the supporting cast argument. So if it's not, like I said, not a glaring deficiency on the defensive end, then I'll give it to Luka over a guy like Joel Embiid and Giannis.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah. I was gonna say I like the way you framed it, Jay. Just as long as he's not a negative defender out there, because me personally, like, I would be, it'd be pretty frustrating being a Giannis or being a Joel, and you're out there plus on defensive and offense, and then a player like Luka gets it, especially when I do think that like the Bucks and the 76ers will be able to go further than the Mavs. But I like that, Jay. As long as he's not a negative defender out there, he doesn't need to be Defensive Player of the Year, but at least hold up until the help gets there. I like that, Jay. All right, my brother. All right, cool, man. So that there you go for the family out there. This is our preseason of very early MVP predictions. We will have the other categories in the Defensive Player of the Year, 6-man, player most improved, and all that. So stay tuned for all of that, man. But I hope family out there, I hope you guys enjoyed this great episode. My brother, you got any last words to say before we sign off here?
Nah, stay tuned with us. Like, comment, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on there putting out content. We're getting closer to the season, so just make sure you're tuned in with that. And like you said, we're going to be coming out with preseason predictions, episodes like that, getting you ready for the season, because we're almost a week away from the season starting. So it's a week away tomorrow, actually. So get ready. Stay tuned.
Get ready, man. Stay tuned, man. I love it. I love it. Well, all right, man. Well, if that's it, then we out of here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.
Peace.